Hello, everyone. Welcome to not another episode of the Fortress of. Here, look at this. We're here again in another new edition of Fourtress Finest, a spinoff of our normal podcast. Where for this one, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us, HBO's The Last of Us show,
Mhm.
every week, and kind of like me and Devin did the Regs and Power. But this time, there's three of us. It's right now
Mhm.
me, Brian, and Devin. Who this is going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, if you've listened to our normal podcast, you know I'm a huge fan of the video game property The Last of Us, which this is based on. I also just recently played it twice on the PS5 remake, so it's very fresh in my brain, which we'll talk about as we get into this. Might be a reason why I have some thoughts about this show. Um, but as we real quick, Devin, you have zero playtime to this game.
Mhm.
Ooh,
Well, that's not
Xbox
entirely true.
fanboy.
I have about 15 minutes of playtime because
Hey.
I think I've played through the first like 10 to 15 minutes where they basically do it verbatim in the show, but yeah. And then I have never played anything past that. So,
Okay. Okay, I see. Yeah, right. So basically, you're already caught up in this episode.
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Brian, what about you?
So I have beaten The Last of Us 1 a bunch of times, at least 3. And then I have beaten The Last of Us 2 only once. And I've been wanting to get back to it. But I do love the franchise. I think The Last of Us is probably one of my favorite games of all time. Definitely
Dang.
probably in the top 10. I think this franchise is amazing. I think they tell a really beautiful story. So I'm excited for the
Nice.
TV show.
I'm just really curious to hear y'all talk about the adaptation because like I'm curious what stuff was like a level in, or like what would be something you actually have to go through in the game versus like in the show they just like, oh, we're just gonna go here and then they're there.
Right. So quick format structure here, listeners. We're gonna start out with our overall, just kind of talking about the episode itself. We are going to do our best not to have any spoilers for the video game. We'll do the video game comparisons like in a separate-ish section, but if we let one slide, just be aware anyone who honestly hasn't played the game, which this show might be a reason why you want to go and play that game. So we'll try our best not to spoil that so check the time codes for all that. And then we'll definitely have, if we do a future spoiler thing, Devin's gonna say peace out because he doesn't want any of those, and me and Brian might do a little thing, but who knows? We might not need it if we're not feeling that at the end of this, but just check the time codes just to be aware. Let's get into this. I was so hyped. Probably like more hyped than I could have been for anything in a while, and I was just so jazzed and ready for this. This thing has been in the making for years. It was originally going to be a movie, some might know, with Sam Raimi attached to produce, I believe, and they were going to have Arya Stark play Ellie. So it's been through a lot of iterations, and eventually, the co-creator of The Last of Us, Neil Druckmann, who is a co-creator on this show, he just couldn't crack the code. He said about the film script, and then eventually a TV script was what ended up working, and he got Craig Mazin, who is creator of Chernobyl, which is a show I've not yet seen, but I hear is fucking incredible, also on HBO. They did
Ooh.
this, and now here we are. Uh, Not to the date, but 10 years later, since the game first came out in 2013, we are finally at an adaptation of The Last of Us, even though that game feels like it's been in the zeitgeist forever.
Right.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's a good cast and crew behind it. I hope
Yeah.
all of them played through the game because that would be
I
kind of
heard that they
weird
did
if they
not.
didn't.
Yeah, I can tell for a fact they told at least the actors don't play the game.
Don't play the game. Oh,
Which, yeah, I
interesting.
have criticism about that as a whole, but we'll see how this turns out before I can.
Oh, interesting. Well,
Yeah,
I would say from the acting point of view, I would say maybe see a little bit, but you also don't want to get to the point because if I were to play that Last of Us game, even subconsciously it would be difficult not to mimic. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I would understand that's the reason why they want to do it because you already know, especially with The Last of Us 2 being getting the trolling that it did, you know that people are hypercritical about this franchise and that if people do start to try to mimic, then you get even bigger comparisons than you already are, and that creates a big wormhole of crap. So
yeah.
I understand that. But let's get into the episode now. Wasted so much time. I will say I saw it twice. I watched it once, obviously, when it first aired, and then I did watch it again today, the next day. Um, and I enjoyed it even more the second time because on a first viewing, honestly, the best way I could say is they didn't knock it out of the park, but they hit a home run is the best way for me to describe it. In the sense that I really enjoyed it. but I can honestly say I'm probably way too close to this franchise and that I was very hyper aware of the differences. Not that all of them bothered
Mhm.
me. Most of them I was fine with, but there were some things where I'm like in the opening, since we're in spoilers, it doesn't matter. Like in the opening, I I don't think I needed all of the background info.
I
I kind
agree.
of like just being thrown into the world via the game, you
Mm.
know?
Okay.
'Cause and we'll talk about this a little more later, but, like, how the game just kinda throws you into it and you kinda learn for yourself, but also, that's because it's a video game. So I understand, because 'cause I've also heard things from other people saying, like, "Oh, I like that stuff because I thought I would be confused," and, like, people need to hear some of these things. I get that it's a different medium, so that's just me, though, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, do you mean, like, the first scene where they describe, like, that it's fungus, not a virus? Or
Like, I guess that's that's not really a game spoiler, is that opening, the 1968 opening, obviously is completely new. And I will say on the first viewing, I was just kind of taken aback, but on the second viewing, I quite enjoyed it. I honestly quite really liked it a lot. But on the first viewing, I was like, "Oh, they're not exactly spelling it out for you, but they're basically telling you this is it."
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because but I think that was clever to put that in. I mean, I don't know. I guess I might have been wondering like, what exactly it is, but it is nice to
Mhm.
say it's definitely a fungus. And I don't know how, I guess that's pretty similar to the game because of how the clickers look and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
Right.
I just thought it's a pretty unique thing, to have it come. It's just an original take on a zombie thing to have it do that. So I
Exactly.
was glad
Oh,
they
yeah.
set that context for us.
And I mean, I think that's what's so interesting about this game, like about this franchise as a whole, is the fact that it's a different take on what we kind of know and love about like zombie kind of movies. We got bites and stuff like that. Then we got this where it's the
Mhm.
fungus. Um, it's one of those things where I am still, I guess, I want to see how it plays out towards the show, but it feels that beginning parts especially felt kind of not necessary to me because I think there's so many good like sci-fi stuff like this that doesn't never like tells you just straight out like the kind of similar to this and it doesn't bother like the story, like that's not the important part of what the story is going to tell. So like to
Hmm.
focus so
Right.
heavy on that in the beginning to make that kind of like that's the selling pilot part right there kind of hit me weird. um
Interesting.
I
Yeah,
wonder if
yeah.
they'll play with that more or if they're gonna just put it down to the backside and then make it more about the characterization of the people in these. So we'll see. I guess we'll just see. So I
Hmm.
don't hate it. I didn't hate it. It was short enough
No.
where it didn't bother me, but I just thought it was interesting starting
Yeah.
Yeah.
place, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. I did hear the creators talking about how the reason they wanted it to be set in the 60s was because as humans, we are constantly doing this thing where it's like, oh yeah, scientists have known about this for decades and we as humans just kind of ignored this as a possibility. Also, as we go
Hmm.
through a pandemic of our own where
I'd say
scientists
too
knew
close to
this
home.
could have been a thing for years and we ignored it and now we're where we are.
Yep.
So, I understand that. Yeah, obviously it's like, yeah. Speaking of which, how did you guys feel about it considering the pandemic we currently live in?
I think it didn't really hit me until the after the credits shot, or like after the show was over when they were kind of doing behind the scenes stuff. And there was one
Uh-huh.
shot of Pedro Pascal with somebody wearing a mask. And I was like, that's
Mhm.
kind of an ironic thing for this show.
Right. Yeah.
So,
For me, it was as soon as that first scene hit that I was like, ugh. Like we're getting more and more removed as we pretend more and more that the pandemic doesn't exist as a whole.
Right.
mhm.
So it doesn't hit as weirdly as I guess I would have maybe say like a year or 2 years ago. But it's
Mhm.
still you definitely feel it whenever hear something that has to do with the pandemic. Now it still does kind of like,
Yeah.
this could
Mhm.
very much easily be us today, right now,
Right.
going through exactly
Right.
this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those
Yeah.
things.
Then we get, which I was very excited about, a beautiful title sequence. I'm glad Gustavo is back doing the music for this show. I was so dope. Also, I love that they put both Pedro Pascal's name and Bella Ramsey's name, just the two of them in that sequence. Much like the game, it just shows Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson's name. I was like, I like that a lot. It was really well done and really pretty and also very like eerie
Mhm.
title
Mhm.
sequence?
Gave me
Yeah.
Game of Thrones vibes for sure,
Yeah.
and the way
Yeah, a
that you had to
bit.
like sit with it. Yeah.
Fungus over the whole earth. Very clever.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. And then this is I'll say this is not really a spoiler for the game, but it is a change. So this is a video game comparison. It takes place in 2003. We first get here in 2003, whereas the video game was set in 2013, the year it was released, and so the time jump to 20 years later was 2033. And I think they literally just did it so that the present day could be set in 2023 when this show
Right.
is came out.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Which doesn't really change anything, but I did think they actually thought about it as the episode goes on. There's subtle things. For one, there's a big picture of George Bush because he's president at the time. Which I thought
Yeah.
was very funny. And then two, it didn't hit me until my second viewing where jumping ahead, Sarah's in the car and they're discussing what's going on. And Sarah asks, "Is it a terrorist attack?"
Uh-huh.
And that didn't hit
Mhm.
me until I'm like, "Oh my God, this is 2003. Holy
Mhm.
shit. That adds a lot more context than it would have if it was set in 2013."
Yeah.
Right.
And so I just thought that was very interesting that clearly the change was made seemingly, at least to me, to just set it in 2023, but they actually added more to it. That and
Mhm.
also we'll talk about Joel. I was a bit confused. Maybe you guys have the answer. There is a Desert Storm veteran bumper sticker on their
Mhm.
truck. Whose truck that is, I'm not sure. I would assume that they're wanting us to say that Joel is the vet, not Tommy, but it also could be both of them. I
I
don't
wanna say
know.
it felt like Tommy to me. That's what I initially
Yeah,
thought, but I wasn't sure whose truck
Yeah.
it was. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. But again, that's something that they probably wouldn't have put there if it was set in 2013, you
Exactly.
know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Right.
So it's interesting. Um, and yeah, so we get Sarah, who is played by Nico Parker, that I did not know
She's a
is the
nepotism
daughter.
baby.
I know.
Ah.
I literally read that today, dude.
I was like, "Damn, she looked like somebody." She sure does.
Oh,
Them
is she?
them
Because I thought she looked like the daughter of that one girl that's in like everything.
She's the daughter of how do you pronounce her name? I looked it up because I know she corrected the pronunciation. It's pronounced Tandy Way Newton. She's in Westworld. She's in the second Mission
Yep.
Impossible
Yep.
movie and a bunch of
Yep.
other stuff.
Yep. She's in Solo, right? As like one of the heist people. I think so.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I read that
Yeah.
today. I was like, oh, that's a bummer. But also, she's really good
she's
as Sarah,
phenomenal.
I
Yeah,
will say.
absolutely.
Yeah. But she looks
Yes,
exactly like her too. So I was like, dang,
she
I
does.
bet
That's
that's
what
her
that was
So
the
daughter.
funniest
weird.
thing to me, because I was like, "Damn, them jeans went heavy."
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did.
I love that she's wearing the same t-shirt
T-shirt.
that Sarah wears in the game, which is a fake band. It's not a real band at all. And I'm pretty sure one of the people involved in the original game's kids just came up with the name. It's like two random words. I can't remember what it is. But I was like, that's a nice little nod there. But this is where we get a difference to the game is that we get a lot more backstory to Sarah.
Hmm.
We get to see her day and her go fix Joel's watch to give him for his birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Which they also use as a way to establish that something is going wrong.
Hmm.
Something eerie is happening. She sees a student's hand twitching weirdly. And the biggest one, which I want to know how you guys felt about this, particularly to you, Brian, considering this is different from the game, in the sense that how did you feel about them kind of like alluding to these potential? Let's just call no, we'll call them infected. Well, how do you feel about like specifically with the old granny Nana just straight up like turning behind her, which was horrific to
Oh,
Just
watch.
croaking. Um, yeah, it's one of those things where it feels a little tropey in media. I
Uh
still
huh.
think it was effective. Like, I thought that was scary as shit, and I thought that
Right.
was, I don't want to say a good addition, but I do think that it worked well. But I do kind of hate that's something that you 100% have seen in Walking Dead. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Right.
So I was fine with it. I guess I can say I was
oh
lukewarm.
man.
Wasn't jazzed. Didn't think it was crazy, but I just feel like I've seen it before.
Oh, that
Yeah.
shot where she's like just behind her, just moving her head around was so
It
creepy.
reminded me of
A girl
it.
going
It
crazy.
reminded me of that old woman in It when the
Hmm.
boy's in the library.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
But my favorite part from that scene was the look on the dog's face right after she
Yeah.
comes back. That dog's like, "Yo, did anyone else fucking see that shit? Please tell me someone saw
Mercy
that."
was trying so hard to warn everybody that this shit is not right, and everyone was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Mercy, why you so scared, motherfucker? Do you
Right.
see that shit? What do you mean?"
Yeah. I like how Mercy dips when she tries to go back to the house. He's like, nope.
And that was
You're
another
gonna
thing
Yep,
die
too.
here.
Mercy. Yeah.
A lot of this reminded me of War of the Worlds. I don't know if you guys remember that movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I feel like there was definitely a dog in that part too that was definitely running away from like bad shit that was happening. I was like, I'm gonna go that way.
Yeah.
Right.
So that gave me that vibe real bad.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I thought it was again, it took me aback, but then again on a second viewing, I was like, no, this is a pretty good mood setter with Sarah going to see the watch
Hmm.
and or get fix the watch and tiny little things happening in the background like that. I thought it was pretty well done. And again, it's hard to see it because again, me and Brian, we know what's going on already. And so, Devin, that's why I love that you're here in the sense that how did you feel about any of that, knowing that that stuff is not in the game?
Oh, I didn't. I guess I forget how it goes in the game, but it's just I guess you're just like in Joel's house the whole time. But yeah,
Right.
I don't know. I knew it was coming for Sarah because I had played through those first 15 minutes, but my girlfriend did not, and she was shocked like when
Okay.
that
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
Oh
down
yeah.
basically verbatim like it does in the game. But
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good kind of a fresher. I don't know. For some reason, it just felt like a fresh take on a zombie apocalypse starting. And then I think the most impressive thing about that whole sequence was the truck shots of like just the camera being in the truck as they're driving around all these places and like I think it was a
Straight up
lot of
from
it
the
was
game.
continuous.
That felt exactly like the video game, and I thought that was an interesting touch.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really cool. So I thought that was really well done. And it was really funny when they crashed the car and then Tommy's on the other side and he's like, "Okay, I'll meet you by the river." And she's like, my girlfriend's like, "Well, why can't he just go
Walk
around?"
around.
Like that's I was like, "No, no, no, this is a video game adaptation.
Video
You
game
just
logic.
can't go around. You can't
Invisible
climb over
wall.
it. Yeah, it's a
The
wall.
car
You
was on
can't."
fire. You can't. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna meet me later. We'll be fine. Like you just got to go and explore on your own down this alley. So I thought that was pretty funny. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, love that whole sequence though. I thought it was real good. Also, they're fat. Are they fast zombies in the game?
Kind of.
So without, I guess, spoiling the game, there are much like a video game. There are many different types of
Okay,
zombie infected, and so yes, there are a version of the fast. The fast
okay.
ones are typically the ones who are infected the first stage of infection. You're like a fast zombie,
They're the
basically.
freshest.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
The freshest out the oven.
They got that's why
Okay.
they got them fresh legs.
Yeah, they could be moving.
Because that one guy that chased them around was flipping over tables and stuff. I was like,
That
oh
shit was
god, it's World
scary.
War Z all over again.
I
Yeah.
can't do
Yeah,
fast zombies. I will die immediately.
nah,
Please don't
Oh,
make me go through
we're so fucked. Yeah.
it.
yeah,
But speaking of that, I did want to go back to the terrifying old grandma when Sarah first encounters them in the house. Um Genuinely a horrific scene
yeah.
seeing the weeds coming out of her mouth.
Oh god.
Like that was disgusting.
Yeah. That was an interesting
Yeah.
addition for sure.
Yes.
And the fact that the lady's still alive too. Both of them, I think, were still alive, weren't they?
At least Homeboy was.
Definitely the old man
Yeah.
was.
The old man was like, "Help me," like,
Nope.
damn.
I am
You're
leaving.
nope.
The way I would have ran out there so fucking fast.
But it shows how fast the virus turns you is that also when Joel and Tommy show
Mhm,
up and they take out the Nana, they run over the old couple because they've already turned at that point. And you see their neighbor in the rear view, like out of
mhm.
focus, just like in the game, get attacked by them because she doesn't listen to the Joel and go back in her house and lock the door.
See, so have they done that? Because I was wondering this, and I think I'll wonder this the whole episode of like, or the whole series of like how many things they took like verbatim, shot for shot of like from the game, like because the game was so good that they could do that. So like, did they
Right.
were there shots that you could tell like, oh yeah, this was exactly from the game that
I
they?
mean, there's stuff that like pretty similar, almost exact shots. Like that house on fire is very much in the
Hmm.
game. It's as you're driving. All of that, like we talked about, that POV from the backseat of Sarah's point of view is all basically the game.
Mhm.
And then that whole town setup, all of that is pretty much the same, except there's no plane crash.
Okay.
They upped it up because of, I would assume they're like, yeah, we got money. Let's make it a
Yeah.
plane crash.
I didn't like that. I don't know how far we want to go into that without talking about the video game aspect of stuff with that. But I didn't
Right.
like that change. That just felt Hollywood goofiness to me.
I
Mm.
thought it looked good. I'll give it that.
Yeah, it
Looked
looked
good.
great, but it just felt like that upped the ante a little bit more than it needed to be. Like there's supposed to be some small city
Right.
shit of we don't know how big this is. We already got people crashing fucking airplanes in midair into my city.
Yeah.
Like that
Right.
felt a little too much. Hold the brakes there a little bit. Come on.
I
Yeah.
did like the shot of all the planes leaving from the airport, and they're like one right behind the other, just like trying to take off as
That
fast
was
as they
nuts.
could. That was
Yeah.
cool because it's like, holy shit, they are running
Yeah.
away.
I think that was enough.
Yeah.
I don't think I need to see any crash.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
also get why one would if you're doing something like that.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a money shot, basically.
Yeah.
Really quick, I did wanna go back to that old terrifying woman in the sense that they made it the first infected that they kind of encounter, this old woman, because they talk about how, like, there's a beautiful horror to the actual cordyceps fungus itself in the sense that it can form these, like, kinda beautiful images because it's a plant in essence, but it's also terrifying and horrible to look at. And so, the idea that when you first see this old woman, she can't speak. The woman says she's deaf and she's immobile. And so the idea that this fungi is at the same time literally healing her, making her able to walk and do all these things, but is also destroying her brain in the
Mm.
process, you know? So it's like that weird balance of the two I thought was very interesting going forward. Yeah.
I didn't even think about things like
Damn, I
that.
didn't
Yeah.
even think about that.
I will say shout out that one I picked up. Shout out to the HBO companion podcast that they're doing,
Oh, yeah.
hosted by Troy Baker, who played the original Joel, and he's got the two creators Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin on there. Listen to that, but also listen to us because we'll tell you the real shit. No. Yeah, and so the whole shit goes down, and we get to the big climactic moment. The whole time going to this before this episode started, I was like, "Where's it gonna end? Where's this
Mm.
episode going to end?" It didn't end where I thought it would. But also, I didn't know it was gonna be a whole like hour and a half long episode, a big hefty 90 minutes or whatever. Um, and we get Sarah's death.
Yeah.
She is shot by a soldier that holds them both up and seemingly is just following orders like a soldier would, but it's fucking horrific.
Right. Because it's like it's one of those scary things of like in your mind, we're just people trying to survive, but in their mind, it's like we're trying to contain this shit. We don't know what's going on. All communications are
Mhm.
Right.
down. Like it's just us here. We got to take all precautions necessary to save as many
Right.
people as possible. Sorry,
Mhm.
guys, it's you're not your lucky day. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
fuck, because that's something that I'm sure would actually really happen in that kind of situation. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know who's
Yep.
infected and who's not. You don't have time to check. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you could hear him going copy, copy with more determination. Like, oh, uh-oh, uh-oh,
Because
uh-oh.
yeah, at first it's like questioning. It's like,
Sir?
okay," and then
Sir?
it's like,
Yes, sir.
"Okay."
Yes, sir.
Again, then like I cried immediately. That moment makes me cry in the game every time. I've played it 6 times. It made me cry in the show at both times I watched. But I will say, in the moment, the first time watching it, I was like, I don't know if this is as powerful as the game was for
and
me.
I felt
Yeah.
the same way, and I was trying to figure out why. And maybe for me, it might have just been I've seen it so many times, but I don't. It still just
Mhm.
Mhm.
didn't hit the same. Like even when I play the game, I could probably play a game right now and probably still be like, "This fucking sucks, bro. What the fuck?"
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know why. Did you figure out? What made you feel differently?
I think I did. I could be wrong, but for me, I think honestly, it might be because you play as Sarah. You physically control her, move her around, and just I think that gamer mentality of like, I'm playing this person. I don't want any harm to happen to this person
Right.
that I am playing. I will do whatever I can to save this person. And so I think that addedness to it is what makes that more her death even more
Yeah.
powerful in the game. Um, because I think both actors did a really good job in the sequence. I think she killed it. I think
Mhm.
she was phenomenal. It was genuinely upsetting to listen to and watch her death. Um, and I thought for me at least it was Pedro that I wasn't fully on board with his performance. But then the moment he looks at Tommy and he screams, "Tommy, help me!" That's what got me.
I feel like
That
Mhm.
crushed
they had to
me.
work up to it. I feel like just the no, no, baby, you'll be
Yes.
okay. Like that didn't, whatever. That was fine. But then, yeah, when you
Yeah.
start to
Yeah.
actually feel like the gravity of the situation for him kind of hit, I think
Mhm.
that's when it got hard to watch.
Right, because at that point, she's still, like, hyperventilating and making sounds, and then it cuts to him after he looks at Tommy, it cuts to Tommy, he
Tommy's just
says,
like,
"Oh," it cuts back, and she's just limp,
Yeah.
and it's like, "Oh,
mhm.
fucked."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, god, it's horrible, man.
Yeah. See, but I think you're right though that in the game because you're playing as her, like that mechanic is so much more. You feel so much more connected to the character because like when you're playing a video game, you are the character, so you feel a connection. But also, we've all seen it coming because we knew it was going to happen because we saw it in the game already.
And
Right.
I think that might be like, I love that you bring that up because I actually do think that's 100% why I was feeling the way that I did. And that's what's going to probably stick with me throughout this whole series as we watch it is like, I mean, when you and I talked about the second game, Oscar, I talked about, was this a story that needed to be told? Now we're back
Mhm.
like all the way full circle again. It's like, is this something that needs to be told in this medium? Would it already exist in an arguably better medium? You know
Right.
what I mean? Like I get to interact
Mhm.
in a full story in this video game. Does it
Mhm.
translate as well to TV? Like it's not a book. If it was a book or something like that, obviously it'd make more sense. We got pictures now. But this
Right.
media share doesn't necessarily make sense to me because it's almost backwards. It's almost like I'm taking a step back, like taking a video game, writing a book about it, which can be fine.
Right.
But
Mhm.
so I'm gonna see how that makes me feel throughout. Where it's like those really impactful moments, will they feel as impactful because of that, or if they're gonna
Mm.
maybe not hit as hard? And I mean, not everybody plays video games, so that's perfectly fine to make this
Right.
show for that reason.
I think for us, the neutral people that haven't played it yet, now I kind of, like I want to play it. Like I wanted to play it back in the day, and I want to play it more now. But I think for people that don't know what's going to happen next, it'll probably hit us pretty well. But
Yeah,
for people that
Right.
know those plot points that are coming, you're just going to be a little bit shielded against it because
because that's the
you're going
thing.
to
I
know it's
mean, like
coming.
not to get too far off track, like thinking about a lot of the things that happen, like the second game, and it's like I'm the one pulling the trigger for these situations. I'm the one shooting
Right.
Hmm.
the enemies, you know what I mean? So it's like that's the gravity of the
Mhm.
situation. To watch someone else shoot it, that puts you at a third person perspective, as opposed to that first
Exactly.
person perspective. Like I did it. Like no, she did it. I didn't do shit. I'm
Right,
watching
Yeah.
TV.
right,
I can fucking change the channel whenever I want. So it's like
right.
that kind of thing
Right.
where it's like, well, damn. I wonder if that's gonna hit.
But show overall is just less immersive than a game because
Exactly.
of what we're talking about. So yeah, I
And
don't
I
know.
think that's why they think they go out of their way to add some of this background so that we did spend more time with Sarah than we did in the game because they knew that this moment was coming.
I think that was a good idea. Now that I'm looking back,
Yeah.
that feels yeah.
Right. Funny enough, I did at one point grab my PlayStation controller when they were in that POV shot just to be like, "Hey, look, I'm playing fucking game."
Did you do that by yourself or were you with people?
No, I was by myself.
Sometimes there's an audience of one, but the joke still got to hit.
Yeah. No, but I think, like, at least for me, after this episode ended, I was like, "Okay, I think," because the whole time going into the show, this, for the most part, was the moment for me. I was like, "They just need to get through this opening, and I think everything after this, I'll be okay with." And just because, like, this opening, it's tough. They had a fucking high bar to clear with this opening of the show and the game. And I think everything after this, not that everything isn't as spectacular and there's great and horrible and everything messy that happens in the show afterwards, but this was like the biggest holy shit moment of the game. And so I think everything after this, I think I'll be okay, especially after seeing it and be like, okay, this is what they're doing type of thing. I think not that my bar has lowered, but just that I'm more aware of what the changes and the additions and the things that they're
Hmm.
going to do. And also that knowing myself that I probably can't always 100% be objective with the show because I have the game in my brain so well.
Right.
I was about to say you
Mhm.
just played that part one, so
Right, right. So we'll see. But yeah, so I think I really liked her death more on a second part. Also, I hate that I take notes on a first viewing. I really hate that I have to do that, but I only reason I do that is because 'cause I'm never 100% sure if I'll have time to watch it again a
right,
second
right.
time.
Mhm.
So, I'm like, I hate that I'm slightly distracted, so I'm trying to pay attention and yada yada, and I never like to pause anything on a first viewing because it kinda kills that immersion a bit. But yeah, so we'll see. But so that's that first half of the episode. Cut to 20 years later, 2023, Boston QZ. We get introduced to a child. And this was rough. Another rough bit to watch where a kid
Ooh,
they find a kid's infected, kill a kid.
immediately.
In like 5
That
minutes,
kid had
bro.
cool
Like,
shoes though.
whoa, man.
They were so
Oh
casual about it too.
god.
She's like, "Hey, we'll get you some toys."
Yeah, that made me feel bad.
Think
Sadly, you can tell that this was not the first kids that she came
no,
across,
not
you
at
know?
all.
But I think an excellent way to show just how different Joel is now in
Hmm.
those 20 years that the other woman that's working with him is like, "I can't," because it's a kid in the back of the truck that they're burning all the bodies, and Joel just casually grabs it and dumps it like a ton of bricks, like
Yeah,
nothing.
that kid like hit the side of
Whew!
the wall all weird. I was like, damn, you fucked that kid up. Jesus
He
Christ.
did not like, for real, dude, like, I was like, "Oh god, that
Yeah,
was rough."
yeah, that was real rough.
But it really added to be like, okay, this man is severely changed as a human fundamentally at this point, you know?
Mhm.
Which I liked it because he is. He's seen some he's basically it's like he's got PTSD for the past 20 years and yeah, and so I really liked that intro not just to the 20 years later and the QZ stuff, but to Joel the character once again, you know?
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the intro to Tess, who I love? Shout out to Anna Torv and people who watched Fringe. That was a great, phenomenal show. Everyone should go watch it. Yeah, how'd you guys feel about Tess?
I mean, I have no other
comparison.
comparison to hold her against, so I thought she was fine. I don't know. Brian would have more.
Well, I mean, just in general, like, did you find her an interesting, like, hardened-ish counterpart to Joel?
Yeah, I mean, I guess she's more. What do you say? They're both like I guess smugglers, and they just kind of
Right,
do stuff under the table. So um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's early. I guess jury's still out on her. I suppose.
right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
For me, I think they watered her down. I think they did her a disservice as a hardened character.
Interesting.
I don't know how far you want me to talk about it as far as her character goes, but I think that beginning sequence with all that kind of stuff, I mean, it was fine. They showed people being afraid of her, but then it's still like a weird kind
Right.
of calming situation where I didn't love the way they went about that. And then there's another part with how that whole act plays out that I'm sure we'll get a little bit more into where they did it differently. Uh, and they
Uh-huh.
missed a great opportunity and also an amazing line that she has. Um,
Oh, I know exactly what
yeah,
you're talking
amazing line that she
about.
has. That's so badass. It gets ruined because of the way that they went about that. And I really that hit me. That was like the biggest change that hit me. Kind of like, well, y'all just fucked that one up. Like that's just fucked up
Right.
to move the plot in a different way that I don't know that was
Mm,
necessarily needed to be done. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah. I that did hit me as well. I do think she's she's softer, but also there are parts where she's definitely the same hardened test that,
sure.
you get in the game. So I'm interested to see as we go forward because I think for both of them in my head, and again, I liked it more on a second viewing, I was like, "I think they should be colder."
That's
But
what I was feeling. Yeah.
yeah. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll see as we continue. Robert is basically a non-character, so we can skip him until we get to a later discussion of the show. Uh, let's talk about the fucking star of this show besides Pedro Pascal. Bella Ramsey is Ellie. Get introduced. I will say
Veronica.
from here, um, she's my favorite of the show. As far as portraying, like being close to the portrayal of the original character, I think she's killing it. There was a little awkwardness in the first time she said motherfucker,
Mhm.
but then in her very first scene, but everything after that, I thought was absolutely perfect. I thought her delivery was great. I think her attitude is perfect. And yeah, I think she's nailing it.
Yeah, I think she's inadvertently being the exact kind of annoying that Ellie was in those beginning scenes as she needed to
Yeah.
be. Because Ellie's a piece of shit. She's a little shithead.
Yeah.
And I think Bella Ramsey's definitely captured that pretty well with the way that she's been acting so far. I'm excited to see some of the more like bigger scenes that happen throughout the show to see how
Mhm.
she does with those.
For me, I just couldn't like get out of the Game of Thrones character for her, but I mean, I think she'll keep growing on me. So we'll
That's
see.
fair. I
Yeah,
can see that.
that's fair enough, yeah. I like how she's wearing her best Nathan Drake cosplay in her little t-shirt.
Yeah, I hate that fucking shit. Labor shit.
Um, yeah, so we get introduced to her and Marlene. Shout out to Merle Dandridge, the only actor who is playing the same character as they did in the video game. I think I was talking to my sister about this afterwards. She's like, "Who is your favorite?" I was like, "Ellie and then Marlene," but I feel like that's cheating because she has an advantage that she's the same person, but I think she's killing it. I think she's great.
That was so cool. Yeah, that the post credit like thing. I really like that HBO started throwing these into their shows, but to give you a little bit of background, whatever. But like that was so cool to learn that she was the same person that voiced her too. And it's like I don't know how much different she looks in the game, but like why not cast her? Because she looked. I mean, she
Yeah,
played the part very well.
She looks about like she looks
yeah,
in the game. She's like she said herself. She got very fortunate in this game coming out 10 years ago and her aging up 10 years towards the character now to make her look
exactly.
even more like it. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of perfect for you. No, she did a
Yeah.
phenomenal job. I was very impressed.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes in the episode is when she first confronts Ellie in the sense that she knows who Ellie is, and Ellie I was surprised that Ellie doesn't know who Marlene is at this point.
Yeah, that was a
But
weird, I guess, shift.
yeah, but I'm assuming it's because we're gonna learn a lot more in future episodes.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of things that they're gonna answer between Marlene and Ellie's relationship.
Oh.
Um, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, I did like though the line where she first says Ellie, and Ellie's like, "Are you my mom?" And she's like,
Do I
"Do I
look?
look like your mom?" She's like, "No, you do not." I
Yeah, that's
like that
funny.
little bit of humor they threw in there.
Yeah. So were the fireflies like a big thing? Like, do you know what because like they obviously introduced the fireflies, but I don't know. I mean,
Yes.
I could ask a lot of questions.
I mean, they are a big deal in the game. They're, clearly I mean, you can kinda get context clues that Ellie is special because she's bit and hasn't turned. So you
Hmm.
can kinda figure out why Marlene would wanna keep this little girl safe at this point, you know? Um, so yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. But yeah, the fireflies are introduced early in the game, but mostly in the background, you know? They're not
Okay.
like yeah, yeah. And then this kinda leads us to one of my favorite scene I think my favorite scene of the episode was when Ellie and Joel first meet in that hallway with Marlene and her, like, seemingly right hand in command person. Um, just because it felt the most natural to me where they're negotiating and Ellie's being a little shit on the
He
ground
threw
and
the fuck
Joel's
out of
like,
Ellie.
"Dude, he holy shit. He like Batman trucked her at that wall, dude."
I was like, damn, she hurt? Is she okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good thud.
Yeah, what'd you guys think of that whole, like, exchange with because all the parties finally get to meet?
I mean, I thought they were too casual. They're like, man, the military people are going to be here real quick. It's like, okay, let's take about 10 minutes to talk about what we got going on. It's like, should we go upstairs? Maybe like by one floor or two floors, maybe, or maybe into that tunnel where they came from. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, once again, it was kind of on the heels of that kind of significant change around what happened to get them in that position. That kind of,
hmm
I guess,
Yeah.
hit me a little bit too hard, so it made me hard to appreciate it. I like
Mm.
Marlene's right hand man. She's fucking cool. I'd love to
Mhm.
got her fucking ear shot off. I'd
hmm
love to see more
I was
about
about to
her.
say Marlene had the best line in the episode where they're trying to like, "I'll take her." She's what did she say?
You don't got one ear to fucking listen in or
"You
something
don't have
like.
a fucking ear on your fucking head. Can you please?"
And then they show it, and I was like, "Oh, she sure doesn't." You
She's
are
yep, yep.
correct.
She's acting very
uh,
casual for a person who no longer has an ear.
Yeah, no, I did like the negotiation part. I did like how like clean cold it did feel. I know if like maybe it felt a little bit too casual, people going, but also like remind you that this is shit they've been through before. You know what I mean? Like they're hardened
Right.
in this. They've been criminals for a while. So it's kind of
hmm
nice, but it also kind of gave me a dissonance because of the video game and how they do it and things they're going to get. Um, uh, some things that are just changing, like what's happening with that transaction is different. So it makes it feel like, are they as good at this in this version as they are in the video game? Like, are they as hardened in this as they are in the video game?
Right.
It kind of felt like they didn't know whether or not they wanted to be
I mean,
as
Marlene literally tells Joel, "Don't fuck this up." So
right.
clearly they're not there's a little bit of you fucked up before.
Right. That's the thing. So it's kind of interesting the way that they've changed that a little bit. I wonder why. I wonder if that has anything to do with what they plan to do later or what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And then we get to Ellie and Joel getting a little bit of a scene. I do like the little nod. I'm gonna take it as a nod to the game where Ellie gets to collect some notes. She's sneaking around, snooping, finding some notes. I was like, all right, okay. But I like that Ellie's smart. Like she cracks that code. She tricks Joel into telling him what the '80s song means, and that means trouble and everything. I was like, she's capable, you know. But
hmm
also, she's also a child who is terrified to go outside, which is why she's like, "So we're gonna be safe, right? Like everything's gonna be good."
Girl, have you been
I
outside? Oh,
don't
you
know.
haven't. Right. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then they sneak out, which
hmm
obviously this is a giant escape level in the game where you crawl in and sneak in, yada yada.
Oh, really?
But
That's cool.
yeah, like you got to sneak past a lot of people in this section. And this comes to like my biggest and favorite payoff of the episode, at least, is he meets that guard that he met earlier in the episode when he was trading the
Maybe selling
pills
some
for him.
hmm
drugs.
Yeah. And because when I first saw that earlier scene, I was like, I don't know if I really need this. But also,
Mm.
I think that's me and my gamer brain of knowing the plot was like, oh, I get it. I guess they're establishing that this is a world where you trade and basically everyone's a giant piece of shit, you know? But this was the biggest payoff for me in this confrontation, and for the first time where a flashback worked for me of Joel
Mhm.
flashing back to Sarah's death, that actually really worked for me, and him just flipping out and just beating
Not
this man to
today.
death.
He said, "Not today. Not again."
Yeah,
Yeah, I might be
Yeah.
that was
biased because I
nuts.
just love seeing someone just beat someone to a pulp like that on TV. I think it's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Where I was like, "Stop! Stop! 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 Stop!" It was kind of that situation where
Right.
everyone's just kind of looking like, "Bro, like, stop, man. This is calm down." And then,
And clearly you see why Tess was, like, basically holding him out on a leash before. She's like, "Please, look, don't Robert thinks you're gonna kill him, but don't kill him yet, but I really want you to kill him."
Yeah.
because he would have walked in and done exactly that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did. I
But
did think that payoff as a whole was pretty decent. I did like the guy because like it wouldn't have made as much sense if it just was a random guard. Like he wouldn't have
Right.
definitely
right.
sat there
Right.
and done all that talking and stuff. That would have got them in a
Mhm.
position to be able to, in the video game, I popped 2 shots, homeboy gone. Like whatever. Don't have to have a
Right.
conversation with them. But in real life, it probably has to happen a more natural way. Uh,
Yeah.
Mhm. Is it, I was gonna ask y'all, it is the part where where she kinda, like the way she looked at him as he was beating that guy to death was kinda weird. Like, is that a thing? Or I don't know.
No, not really, but I would say that that is definitely, like, a parallel because she looks interested when he's beaten,
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, shit."
Yeah.
Whereas the counterpoint to when Joel kills this first infected and Riley or, not Riley, Sarah's there, Sarah looks horrified. She looks like she's
Mhm.
crying, she's like, "You just killed her." Whereas now it's like, it just shows the 2 differences between not just the 2 girls, but the worlds that they grew up in. Because Ellie is a new world baby,
Right.
essentially. She's
Right.
never seen anything but this world, and so her being into that is like, "Oh, yeah, that's
yeah.
her
Yeah.
character."
Definitely a plot
Yeah.
device to tell stories later. Um,
Right, right, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the episode. Obviously, the Depeche Mode song, which is an '80s song, plays at the end, so letting the audience know that there's some trouble afoot.
Mhm.
And then that's kind of it. We'll do real quick video game comparisons. Obviously, we kind of did a little bit minor ones. Big, but I don't know. There's some big ones, but not really big ones. I don't know, Brian. Did anyone think stand out to you?
so of course, Grand Lady being the person that turns infected and not just the
Right.
next door neighbor and kind of the situation where that happens. So in the video game, Devin, um, Sarah doesn't actually like leave the house. She's not outside of the house
No.
at that point. She's in the house the whole
Mhm.
time. And then what happens is like a neighbor actually comes through the backyard and hits their sliding screen door. And then
Yeah.
Joel kind of pops in. It's like, Ellie, we gotta fucking go, Ellie. What? I'm not Ellie. Fucking Sarah, you gotta fucking go, Sarah. You gotta go. And then like he's like trying to talk with the guy because he doesn't know like what's going on, like why these people are acting crazy. Tries to talk with them, tries to be like friendly with them.
Mhm.
Notices the man's not backing down, pops the man in the head, and then that's when Sarah's like, "What the fuck? You just shot at old man Jenkins from down the street." It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
the old man Jenkins was going crazy and trying to beat the shit out of everybody, so we had to kill that man.
And this is what I mean. Like I kind of like just being dropped into this world and having to look around and figure things out for my own. But I also understand you can't always do that for a TV show,
Right.
you
I,
know?
I I guess
Yeah.
that would have felt pretty weird to rush through that part because you had to like, you also had to give him a reason to like care about these people that we're going to be killing.
Right.
Right.
Which was
Right.
that effective? But I also did think it
Mhm.
added like some, like you said, some good clues for newer watchers that don't know what's going on to be like, oh shit, why's that hand twitching like that? Why grandma being weird in the background? Like that's good plot
Exactly.
device to make you understand that there's an unsettling feeling while they're baking cookies and doing sweet shit.
Right.
So yeah,
Which, man, fuck that old lady baking raisin cookies. I don't know what you're doing, lady.
raisin
Anyways.
fucking raisin cookies are dope, and I'm tired of y'all being children. Grow up,
The way they
get
Nah,
make
better
it, the
nah,
way
taste
she made
buds.
them, they did not look good.
Fucking
nah.
oatmeal raisin
She
are
knew
good
that
cookies.
Sarah wanted some chocolate chip, and she was like, "Fuck that."
She should have let Sarah decide.
TV and movie cookies they always got to burn them to a crisp. Like they always got to
I
overcook
just,
them, man.
He said
Anyway,
TV and movie cookies.
I just go back to the Matrix.
yeah.
Oh
See
god, this
Matrix.
just
Ain't nobody want that cookie. Fuck that cookie.
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was that point, which that doesn't actually bother me. That was the first time that I kind of like made my little angry face because I wasn't thinking they were going to change anything. I was almost expecting a
Mhm.
shot for shot remake of the first 15 minutes of the video game because it's so
Right.
strong and does so well. And I think
Mhm.
cinematically, actually, they did a really good job with that video game wise. So I would say, why
Right.
not steal what worked? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to think, was there anything between that and the plane crash that like bothered me? That plane crash, I just didn't think it was necessary. I think to keep it more small scale, to keep you kind of wondering how big this actually is, would have been more effective than to like
Well,
already
they
send
Mhm.
like
a
they allude to it because they almost get hit by a truck, which is what happens in the game, but then they didn't do it. I was
exactly.
like, "Oh,
So yeah, once again in the
yeah."
game, Devin, I'm sure I don't know if you remember, but you get in a car accident while you're trying to flee through
Mhm.
the city. Where in this one they have
Mhm.
a whole fucking plane come down at you, which would be way more
Right.
traumatizing to me. I would probably be hiding in a hole
Right.
crying after that. I would not be trying to drive anywhere else after that or run anywhere
Yeah.
else. But
Yeah.
I guess we all got our big boy britches on in this movie, this show.
Right. They're just trying to up the ante a little bit, I guess.
Exactly. Like you said, the money
Yeah.
shot. And I mean that's fine, but it also kind of I just
Yeah.
didn't see the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I completely forgot. Real quick, I want to talk about Tommy because I think he's great. I think Gabriel Luna is
He's doing
killing it to
amazing.
the point where when he was off screen but talking, he sounded like
He
Tommy in the
did.
game.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah, yeah. I thought so
"What the
too.
fuck?
Yeah.
Weird as hell." But yeah, he's his performance was phenomenal. I
That's
will say if
cool.
I rank them right now, Ellie's number 1, Marlene's cheating, but she's number 2. Then Tommy, then Tess and Joel. Funny enough that Joel is at the bottom, but I'm just like his performance is very subtle. So I'm
Right.
excited to see more of it though.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even think of Joel as a an amazing protagonist in the game. I feel like he was one of the weaker characters just outside of his protection, but I feel like his actual like line work and stuff like that was just like, okay, countryman
Yeah.
number 0 being kind of a shithead. Like
Right.
But I think he's doing Pedro Pascal's doing really good
he
though.
is, he's
I
doing a
thought.
great job.
Like
Yeah.
I was skeptical at first because of everything else I've seen him in. Like, but he's a
Right.
fantastic actor. But I just thought like, oh, for an old grizzled person, maybe maybe
Mhm.
you want somebody that's not as like I don't know. But he's doing a great job.
Keeps a
So
good
He
accent
is.
going. Never feels too
Yeah.
stupid to me. Uh,
I love he's got great chemistry with Sarah in those opening scenes, which are obviously meant to establish and care. Which I
mhm.
love that they because I questioned, I was like, "Yo, Sarah's stealing his money for his own damn present," and I love that she admits it to him later in the episode. Though she's like, "Oh yeah, I stole that from you." I thought it was really well done. Yeah, really well done.
yeah, no, they were
Yeah.
cute. It felt right. It felt real. And I think that was really important.
But yeah, I mean, there's other minor things that we're not going to be able to cover everything, obviously. But those are like the big major changes. There obviously there's more background in the story, like all that test stuff in the opening time you see her with meeting Robert. Which actually, let's talk about Robert. And the scene that Brian was alluding to that
Yeah,
we
don't leave that shit out because that was
Robert's a
quite
big.
different.
He's not a big character, but he's like your big first antagonist in the game that you're just
Mm.
going to go kill because this is a big plot change is that they're not after a battery. Joel doesn't know where Tommy is, nor does he seem to care in the game. He's not looking for him or anything like that.
Mm.
He's just doing his smuggling job as usual, which I thought was an interesting change to have Joel care about a human being because it feels like he doesn't care about anyone.
And that's the thing that I think that maybe they thought that was too cold. So maybe they're like, we got to keep him like having like he
I
still has like a little
guess.
bit. But yeah, I didn't because they were smuggling guns and Robert was the one that stole
Yeah.
guns from him. That was the whole big thing. So the whole reason to move the plot forward had nothing to do with finding Tommy. It was about having to take Ellie outside of the walls, which still happens. So I
Right.
don't really understand why they need to make that change. That I'm just looking for Tommy this whole time, and maybe I could find Tommy with the battery.
I can tell you why they needed that change, but we'll do it when Devin's gone.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's cool. But yeah, there's this one part. So Tess is, pretty hard and whatever. She gets hit and stuff, and they're like, "Well, we got to go and get our shit back." And the best thing about Tess is that she does not give a fuck, and she does this
No.
great thing where they're chasing down Robert because Robert's running away from them because they're trying to get their shit back. And then they end up running into Marlene, and that's kind of a difference as well. The way they run into Marlene. Marlene was not the one that killed
Mhm.
them or that killed Robert. And then Robert is, they get caught. He's in a corner. He's begging for his fucking life. Like, please, please, I'll do anything. I'll give you double guns. I'll give you double credits, anything. And then she's just like, that is a really fucking stupid idea. And then shoots him in his head.
And she shoots him in the head,
And
point
it's
blank,
such a
Man.
as he's on the
good
ground.
line and part in the game because you're just like, oh, they
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah,
Like
just
that's
they
awesome.
yeah.
why you missed that? That's so good. And it would have
Yeah,
been
why
such a
change that?
callback. Like it's a good callback to me. Like if you're gonna steal one line from the game, steal that one because that one's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that kind of made me
Yeah.
sad, but
Dang.
Yeah.
whatever.
I
Yeah,
did
that would've been
I
cool.
did like more that they kind of got into Joel and Tess's relationship more because it's alluded to in the game that they were at least formally lovers, if not still lovers. Whereas this, it seems like they are still currently lovers. She crawls into bed with him and everything. But so
Mhm.
I like that stuff. But yeah, all that background, all of the Ellie Marlene stuff, that's not in the game. The first time you meet Ellie is She attacks Joel because she thinks Joel is going to hurt Marlene because they're all together. But so similar, but it's slight variations,
Mhm.
which I'm like, okay, that's fun stuff, and I do like some of the background stuff because, but at the same time, there's the other part of my brain that's like, did I need this?
Right.
But I don't know if that's
Mhm.
just because I know what's happening,
Exactly.
so it's hard to tell.
Right, right.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, that's pretty much all of that big different stuff. Devin, thank you for having us. I think me and Brian only have like a couple things really quick to say and future spoilers that you don't want to know. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
you want to take off now, we'll say goodbye and maybe see you next week.
Yeah, definitely. But before I get off, let me say, I think the one thing that I'm curious to get your guys' take on this, but like
Mhm.
the thing that I think is fresh about this show is that so many zombie shows that's about getting to a place like this Boston
The
zone,
Walking
right?
Dead. You could just say The
The
Walking
Walking
Dead,
Dead is
Devin.
all about walking.
Yeah,
That's for
but
damn
like
sure.
Walking Dead or like, 28 days later, stuff like that. But trying to get to this place that's like safe, right? But then they instantly start you off of like, yeah, well, the drugs come from Atlanta. So like there's still some communication between places and there's like some
Mhm.
semblance of, humanity left. So it's not like, I guess The Last of Us is like, there's definitely people left. It's just, we're a shadow of what we used to be. So I thought that was a very fresh take of like starting from the civilization that's left versus
Right.
usually it's like you start in like a farmhouse and it's like, okay, we got
Uh-huh.
to
It's
find our
very
way to like,
DIY as opposed to like this. We still have
yeah,
millerization. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Right.
Stuff like that. They're still like trying to keep a status quo going.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought that was kind of, just an interesting place to start with this show. So I don't know. I'm very excited for the future of where it's going to go. So definitely very in for the show.
Oh yeah.
And we're excited to see how you feel about the rest of this season. I'm genuinely excited to see what you think of some of these moments coming up.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm excited. All right. Well, I'll hop off, let you all talk spoilers.
All right, man. We'll see you next time.
On the fortress of. I
All
mean,
right. Love you. I'll see you.
love you too, man.
All right. Last little time code listeners, future spoilers. So if you haven't played the game, leave. We're gonna spoil some stuff. Real quick, you were mentioning why the Tommy change. I think they literally only did that so they can establish why Joel knows where Tommy is.
Right. That's fair.
Because in the game, it's just like, oh yeah, last time I heard he was somewhere out here.
Hmm.
Whereas now there's a reason behind that, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm back and forth with the Robert thing. I just feel like they could have handled that just completely differently, and I'm just not really sure they handled it that way. And I kind of soured it for me because Robert, like you said, Robert didn't even exist in this. Robert, we saw him
No.
once. He talked some shit. We saw him again on the ground
Although
dead.
I did love that scene where because like he's like, Tess, can't you just forget this and move on? She's like, yeah. And he's like, no, because he knows that he lives in a world where she won't do it because he knows he wouldn't and that he's gonna die.
You're
So it's
right.
like I do love that interaction.
You're right. Where he's like, "You're being sarcastic." No, I'm not. I mean it. And then
She's
as soon
like,
as she
my
gets home,
goons beat you up. She's like, so cut a finger off. I don't care. Like, come on. But she was like, Joel, I would really like you for you to hurt him though. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, he's right. But yeah, he's the non-character, and
and then they
that's
didn't even
probably
get
yeah.
to.
No, I know, right? Yeah. So
Mm. And I get it
I don't
because
know.
it does feel a little disjointed in the game with him existing because they do you take care of it so quickly. It's obviously almost a tutorial for the video game. Um,
Right. Exactly.
but
Exactly.
yeah, I don't know. It's just like knowing him as a character and knowing how funny that end part was. I was like, damn, you just missed some great dialogue option right there that could have happened. But
Yeah.
it's fine.
And I do wonder if it is because they didn't want them to seem as cold-hearted
Right.
as the game makes them, which I don't know why,
Hmm.
but that was a choice they made. So yeah. One of the things that I did like that talks about future stuff, but didn't feel unnecessary, and I was like, that's subtle enough that I'm okay with that, was the subtle Riley mention.
Hmm.
When Marlene says, well, was Riley a terrorist or whatever, and that's it. That's it. You don't. It's like, oh, you're left wondering who Riley is because we know we're gonna see that interaction in
Right.
an episode. We see Riley in the trailer. We know that's gonna happen. So yeah.
And I remember that was a prediction of ours that obviously didn't come true. That we thought maybe this whole show was going to start with Riley and Ellie,
Right.
and not start
Mhm.
with Joel at all, and then kind of go from there. So we have that kind of build up as well, or something like that, or maybe hit somewhere in the middle of that first episode. We thought it was going to be shown a little bit sooner than it seems like it has.
Right.
So I wonder if they're going to sprinkle it throughout. If there's going to be one episode dedicated to that
I
in the
really
middle.
hope it's that. I
Um,
really hope it's
that
that.
and that probably just makes more sense narratively. That's probably what's going to end up happening, which also kind of sucks because I do love the actor that's going to be playing Riley. She was in
Yeah.
Euphoria and did a really great job. So to only if she's only in one episode like Sarah is, that kind of sucks, but also makes sense,
Probably.
right?
Probably.
uh,
Yeah. Knowing what happens, yeah.
yeah, I love that they're including the DLC kind of stuff in there with all that stuff because I think it tells another great story and gives you a lot more
It
backstory to
does.
Ellie and who she is and how this happened. You know how she ended up the way that she is, the same way how Joel ended up the
Mhm.
way he is. So
Yeah. Um, and, yeah, that's kind of most of the future stuff that this episode led to. Obviously, we're not gonna say anything more because why would we? But it just made me think that one tidbit I forgot to mention. This was the reason why this episode was so long was this was initially the first 2 episodes. So the first episode actually ended right after the second child dies in the 20-year time jump, and you're introduced to Joel again. That was where it would ended, and
oh.
apparently the executives were like, I don't know if me watching a child die and then watching another child die and then just credits makes me want to watch more. And so that's what so they ended up combining kind of the first 2 episodes, which is I think why there's only 9 episodes in this season.
Okay.
I think there was 10 and they're like, "All right, we'll combine 1
That's
and 2."
interesting. I'm trying to think how I would have felt about that. Like, it definitely would have stuck with me if it was just like, damn, this shit's dark. You know what I mean? Like, kind of
Right.
Game of Thrones level. But I guess Game of Thrones ended with the kid getting thrown off a fucking balcony first episode. So
It's true,
that
but
we
you don't
thought
know
that.
if that kid's dead though,
Yeah, that's fair.
whereas
We knew this kid
a
was
kid
fucking
being
dead.
chucked into a fire is very dead.
Yeah. Damn. Interesting.
So, I thought that was I thought that was very interesting. But yeah, man, I'm very excited for this show. I've been excited for this show, and we gotta have gonna have is it will we see? We'll see by the end, but it's gonna be a real question whether or not this is the greatest video game adaptation of all time.
I need them to shut the fuck up with that because it kind of like seems like they forgot that there have been a lot of very good video game adaptations that have come out in the recent years. Why is everybody forgetting that video games existed? Like,
Because I think the thing is that like every adaptation always came with the caveat. Castlevania, it's animated. Arcane, it's animated. Sonic, live action, but he's fucking
he's like,
animated. So it's like I feel like this was the first like very true live action adaptation
well,
type of
yeah.
thing.
Look
And
at
I
how the
think
fuck
that's
you made
why.
them look. We never
I
had video games before now that looked this good. Fuck you. Like, come on.
exactly. But it's gonna be the same thing with if Super Mario is really good, it'll still have the caveat that it's for kids and it's
Yeah, it's
animated, you
animated.
know? So and I think that's
Yeah.
why this question keeps popping up though. Yeah. But we'll
Mhm.
see,
I
man.
don't know. It
I'm
just
I'm
feels like
excited.
that fake marketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
excited too, and it feels like being a book reader to a new TV show coming out again, where it's like you get to criticize other things and also see people that have never seen this game before experience it,
Right.
like Devin, like experience it firsthand for the first time, and I
Mhm.
think that's a really unique experience that we haven't had in a while. Uh,
Yeah.
so I like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Looking forward to more of Pedro Renaissance continuing for forever.
My
um,
man's agent's working damn ass off.
yep. Is there anything else you got to say about the first episode?
That's all I got. I enjoyed it. I look forward to next week.
Yeah, me too. You can email. I'm just gonna do the same intro as the normal podcast because that's what we do. You can email us at thefortressstuff@gmail.com. Fortress, but FOUR. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and the YouTube channel. Also at the Fortress of. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandma, tell your cat. Rate and review us. We know this episode ran long, but that's because we had a meaty, chunky episode here in this first one, and also because we gotta feel it out and see how it goes. So,
Yeah, we blame it on the
hopefully,
episode. It's their fault.
yeah. Hopefully future episodes will be significantly shorter, much like the Rings of Power's length. But yeah. Thank you, Jackie, for helping edit the podcast. Brian, thank you for the art. Alex for the music. And Debbie, thank you for being here even when you're not here. You can find Brian on Instagram at ITZ_, by the way. Alex at Peterson Films. And Devin, you can find him not listening to Last of Us spoilers. Hopefully he doesn't get any of it spoiled now that the show is popping and everyone's
Okay.
watching. That would be unfortunate. He needs to get the whole show spoiled for 10 years, and then it all of a sudden happens right before the show.
Because Twitter wants to be annoying. I can see that 100%.
Yeah. Oh god. But yeah, that is it for us here. We will see you next week for episode 2 of HBO's The Last of Us. Bye.
Bye. I was supposed to say bye.